couldn't find my Jaguars T-shirt.
Unfortunate. But the clean-shaven Hildebrand. Here,
I know, I didn't think of
flesh.
this. If I would have thought of that, I would have shaved everything except the mustache and found my Jaguars shirt. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20.
Where are we at, Marcus?
What do you mean?
Marcus.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Where do we do the show at?
Inside the sports lounge.
Inside the sports lounge. We've all went to the hospital to get the IVs, to get the energy back from the 4-hour extravaganza 72 hours ago.
Inside.
Inside. Schottenkirk called in from Jacksonville. He's currently at the Players' Championship in a rain delay. So we'll see if that even finishes. We should know by the end of this show if the Players' Championship finishes. But Travis Kriens here, Nathan Stacken will be joining us. So he's getting the makeup done on the makeup chair. He was late. Traxler's here as well. And Charlie Hildebrand, we'll start with you. Thoughts on the 2014 NFL Draft. What will you remember it for, and what stood out to you?
Off the top of my head, I think I'll probably remember it for Blake Bortles going 3rd overall, which most people thought he'd go lower than that. And then Cleveland passing on Manziel at 4 and trading back up to 22 to draft Manziel. And it also being ironic that both Brady Quinn and Brandon Weeden were also both selected at 22 for the Cleveland Browns. I think he'll be better than at least one of them. Hopefully he's better than both. But I think those two quarterbacks, and maybe even Minnesota getting back in to get Bridgewater, the first-round quarterbacks will probably stick out the most to me.
I'm hoping this is a draft
you got a chance to digest this.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Very choppy. Okay. What draft thoughts? 3 days removed.
I'm hoping that this is the draft where we remember, at least from a Vikings perspective, where the Vikings drafted a lot of defensive guys, 7 out of 10. Hopefully this is the foundation of a much improved defense. I'm pretty satisfied with what the Vikings did. They addressed a lot of needs, which is quite good. If we're just talking about the first round, because that's kind of what we're all going to remember, Charlie hit it right on the nose. It will be interesting to see how some of these top 10 guys come out. I think I like all 3 of the tackles that were taken early: Lewan, Robinson, and Matthews, and I think those will be very good players. It will be interesting to see, a guy that a lot of us are kind of in between on. Khalil Mack goes to Oakland, and I think everybody sort of agrees that may not work out so well. And I know Kriens was a big fan of what the Packers did, getting Clinton Dix, so it seems like that was something that sort of fell into their lap. So it'll be interesting to see what exactly happens, because every draft can't be graded for 4 years really.
The top 10, Mack, we don't really care for Mack going 5 to Oakland. Bortles was that big surprise going to Jacksonville. They're Jacksonville. You know how I feel about Bortles. Have fun with that. Buffalo trading up to get Sammy Watkins, and then trading Stevie Johnson to San Francisco. A first-round pick next year goes to Cleveland, and Buffalo has not made the playoffs in 15 years. So is that a good move? Is that any reminiscence of the Julio Jones trade a few years ago?
I think it's a great move for Cleveland. I mean, they had 2 first-round picks this year. It looks like they'll probably have 2 next year. I think, in theory, you got to get guys to help out E.J. Manuel in Buffalo. I mean, we don't know. Receivers kind of get tougher and tougher to project as these spread offenses become more prevalent in college and in the pros to an extent. But I think we can agree that, at least on paper, Watkins is the best receiver in the draft. And if you're going to trade up to get a receiver, that'd be the guy to take.
Don't forget also that. Sorry, go ahead, Marcus.
I think it's pretty easy to bash the Buffalo side of this trade because they're giving up a first-round pick next year. But like Charlie said, Sammy Watkins is the receiver everybody wanted, and I'm really, I guess, tired of blaming quarterback failures on quarterbacks when they truly don't have anything to work with. Buffalo is clearly addressing that problem, and if they want E.J. Manuel to succeed, Sammy Watkins is the guy you want to get there. Those are two really good young players. Hopefully they can somewhat work together and get Buffalo going in the right direction, even if it's a few years before they even make the playoffs.
And don't forget, too, they also traded for Bryce Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a chance that they're going to lose either Fred Jackson or C.J. Spiller, or maybe both after this season's done. They have some good young talent in place on the defensive side with Marcel Darius, though with his drug situation and charges, that could, who knows what's going to happen there. You also have Kiko Alonso at the linebacking core. So the Bills know they need to make a splash, and again, some of this I think is geared towards this whole the potential new ownership there. They need someone to buy that team, keep them in Western New York. I do think some of that is in play with this, that they needed someone that to hit home run with this first-round pick.
On that point, do you believe there's any chance Donald Trump buys the Bills? Keeps
them? I think there is. I think there's. It sounds like there's a list of 2 or 3 that.
There is quite a list of people who have been interested in the Bills. What I'm saying is there anybody interested in buying the Bills and keeping them in Buffalo? I think Donald Trump's the only notable name that we've heard, and I mean he's full of talk. We all know that.
The Bruins owner.
I would be interested in seeing him own an NFL team, just so that, I mean, it would give NFL Network some programming where, on Black Monday, bring the coach in, you're fired.
Yeah. Well, the Boston Bruins owner, he is a native of Buffalo. His company, Delaware North, they do a lot of the concession stands in these stadiums. He is interested in buying them and keeping them in Buffalo. And there was another potential owner, too, I can't think of his name, that he has said, too, that he wants to buy the Bills and keep them in New York. So there is plenty of talk about him. But Donald Trump certainly is the most high-profile name of the group.
Donald Trump, not going to be the owner of any NFL team.
He'd be way more interesting than Mark Cuban ever would be in the NFL. Or Donald Trump in the NFL would be like Cuban in baseball.
I think Travis made the safe bet that it's unlikely that he'll own an NFL team. I think that there will be enough people trying to block it.
He's a D-bag. Nobody likes him. I don't care. But, Eric Ebron 10 to Detroit. Detroit, an obvious need. They don't have Calvin Johnson. They don't have Reggie Bush. They don't have any receivers there. Is that a good move?
I think what I didn't like about the Lions is that, okay, it's fine to go get Eric Ebron, but they didn't really address. I think we all agree defense is the problem for the Lions, and I don't think they didn't address that early for sure. So it is quite interesting to see, that's where they went, and then they didn't really come back to that.
Everybody loves what the Rams did with Aaron Donald in 13, and Greg Robinson, the tackle from Auburn, at 3. At 2. Everybody loves what they did. I'm just going to say it's not going to work out because everybody's on the wing.
It seems like that's the case a lot. I mean, in theory, I liked what they did. They got better on the, supposedly they got better on the offensive and defensive line. They didn't get a receiver. I think they need another receiver to help Bradford out. I don't know if Tavon Austin and Austin Pettis are the receivers that are going to lead you to be not in last place in the toughest division in football. But I like their 2 first-round picks, though.
What about the pick of Michael Sam in the 7th round? Will he even make the team? This is like the most loaded defensive line in the league.
Michael Sam? Who's this?
Former SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
You guys can say what you want about him. I'm making my own thing that I'll talk about Michael Sam if he gets through preseason camp and he's still on the team.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like given the depth of the Rams' defensive line, it's nice that they drafted him, but I don't know how he's going to make the 53-man roster. Maybe gets on their practice squad, but
I don't know who they have as backups. He might be better than a backup defensive end. He's certainly not going to beat out Robert Quinn or Chris Long, though.
He's the seventh-round pick. It's good that he was taken. I wish him well. He's going to have a hard time making that team.
He said if they were playing the Vikings.
But that's only because I don't like Missouri. So
he said if you were playing the Vikings, there's 3 sacks.
I have no doubt that he fell to the 7th round, and I'm guessing some of it had to do with him coming out as gay, even though that's something everybody would have found out anyway, because these scouts know a lot about the players that they're scouting and that they end up drafting.
Other players have been gay in the NFL. We just haven't known about it. So I'm assuming that is this the first guy that scouts have ever known that's been gay? He came out and said it himself. But do you think scouts have known before? Or have these players kept it quiet good enough to where their teammates don't even know?
It's probably one of those scouts knowing in NFL circles and people talking about it. You know, that NFL circles thing. What about NFL squares or NFL rectangles? But this is apparently, this comes up in said circles, and I'm sure, they have a pretty good idea of what's happening with these guys.
Co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year in the 7th round. If he is not gay, where does he go?
Honestly, I don't think that had as big of a deal to do with it. I think that, I remember, I don't remember what we said about it here, but I remember calling into Stacken's show and saying that, it looks like he can rush the passer, and they need pass rushers in the NFL. His problem was with a 4.9 40 and a 25-inch vertical leap. He's got the athleticism of a 3-4 nose tackler and offensive guard, and there's just not that many guys that can be edge rushing defensive ends.
And didn't a punter outbench him?
If he would have ran a 4.7 40 and had a 30-inch vertical leap, I think he goes in like the 3rd or the 4th round then.
Yeah, his off-season, the combine and then his pro day workouts, they were not that great. I think a punter even outbenched him. So, that's not very good if you're trying to make it along the defensive line. So, it's more of his workouts here prior to the draft that affected his draft stock.
He was also hit with one of the worst things any offensive or defensive lineman can have. That's short arms. His arms aren't very long, and when you're playing offensive tackle or defensive end, you need to be able to get to the quarterback. He doesn't have terribly long arms. He's not very tall. So these sort of things do work against you. And like Charlie and Stacken mentioned, you run a 4.9 40, these types of things adds up. I can't sit here and think, considering some of the homophobic things you hear coming out of the NFL and NFL locker rooms, that didn't at least deter some teams away from even having them in a 7th round position on their draft board.
And it may have deterred a couple of teams, and I'm not an expert scout, but my gut feeling is that if he's got the athleticism that he does, which for a guy off the street is okay, but for a defensive end isn't great. My guess is he probably kind of had his talent maxed out at Missouri, which is a kudos to the Missouri coaching staff that with his athletic ability they turned him into this really good defensive end in college. I don't know how much you can build on that though. You can get better pass rushing moves and hand placements. But when you're basically the same speed as the offensive tackle that weighs 60 pounds more than you and can lift twice as much, it's just tough to do that.
Well, Chris Cluey had some interesting tweets, too, in the 7th round, talking about the NFL and their ignorance and hypocrisy towards, because Michael Sam was going in the 7th round. Cluey's sort of losing a little bit of credibility with me, I'm not going to lie.
How so?
Because I think he's just basing it on, because he came out and said he was gay, he's not going to get drafted, or any of this.
Well, he almost didn't. He was like 8 picks away from not being drafted.
He is saying that is because he came out and said he was gay, not because he had terrible off-season workouts.
I think it is because he's gay, yes.
I could be wrong. Ultimately, I think, and this isn't a perfect comparison, but I think it's kind of like in the 60s and the 70s in the Deep South when they had all-white football teams. A lot of reasons that they started integrating was because they saw a guy that was black that was really, really good, and they went, oh, geez, this guy's this good and he can help us win. I guess maybe we'll integrate after all. And I think that if he would have done better working out, I think there's probably some teams that wouldn't have drafted him, period. But the way the league's changed, pass rushing is maybe after quarterback and offensive tackle, that's maybe the third most important position in the league now. And maybe I'm being naive about this, I don't know. But I think, 20 or 25 of the teams, if they thought he had a third or a fourth round grade, probably would have taken him.
My precious Golden Gophers, I think I will say that one of the only reasons they are, national champions from all these years ago is because they recruited black players and made the most out of that well before teams in the South did.
You look at Michael Sam's stats before his senior year, not really all that impressive. Had 7 tackles for a loss as a junior, 3.5 sacks. That's okay. But last year, 11.5 sacks, 19 tackles for a loss, 48 total tackles. That's outstanding. So we'll see how he does with the St. Louis Rams. The Minnesota Vikings, they took their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, after not being able to take Johnny Manziel, not being able to trade up with the Eagles. Teddy Bridgewater, the #1 overall selection a year ago, all of a sudden falls off the face of the earth almost into the second round. Why did this happen, and is it all because of his workout without the glove?
Yeah, I think that's some of it.
And how stupid is that?
What's that?
And how stupid is that?
That's pretty stupid. Considering that you can look at Bridgewater's tape, it'll show you quite a bit. And I don't know if there were just teams who looked at the hand size and a not very great workout. He's not 225 pounds, so that's a problem. I think scouts just sometimes find things or find reasons to bring guys down. Bridgewater seemed to be sort of a victim of that, and I don't know what else he could have done about that. It seems like scouts are going to bring him down. There's also the chance that the teams were just sort of trying to deflate his value and be able to get him later in the first round. I don't think the Vikings were the ones to partake in that. I would hope not, but it did work out. So you can look at both sides of that coin. I think he's going to be a fine player. I think if you give him the tools, and I think the Vikings have that, I think he can build himself into a strong arm quarterback and give himself a pretty good chance.
Well, if you read any of the articles or the comments by Rick Spielman, Norv Turner, said he's very coachable, and Rick Spielman said it was important that they get back up into the first round to take Bridgewater so they could use that fifth-year option on him. That's very key in this as well. Whenever they worked him out privately, they put the glove on him, and he was very good, very well adjusted. So I think he's going to be good. Again, yeah, exactly. Thanks, Marcus.
Put the glove on. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
I was thinking like Michael Jackson's glove, but anywho, I think again the whole thing that I was a little upset with is the fact that the Vikings were trying to trade up with the Eagles and they couldn't pull it off. I think that's the most disappointing thing about it. They were either too cheap or Cleveland had a better pick. I would have rather had Manziel, but hopefully Teddy comes in with a pretty big chip on his shoulder and gets down to work.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think the biggest reason that he fell, and other people have brought this up, but I've kind of noticed this over the last 5 to 10 years. Going into college football season for the next draft, if you're the #1 overall guy, the leader in the clubhouse, it seems like those guys, when they've got so much more time to scout them, and like Tressel said, purposely find anything that could even remotely be considered as a flaw, that they focus on those, and then they purposely bring these guys down, just because they've got so much more time to do it. It's kind of like if you've got 2 movies you like and you've seen one 5 times and one 100 times, you're going to know what all the flaws are in the one you've seen 100 times. While the one you've seen 5 times, you'll know the major ones, but there's other things that stick out.
Look out, Marcus Mariota. Then he's our #1 guy right now.
Yeah, he's going to be #1 until the middle of October, and then he's not going to be draftable. Mid-third round pick after that.
To me, you can go back and watch the 4-hour draft extravaganza, and you can probably look at, I don't know, the 3-hour mark where Kriens, Stacken, and I all have the win collectively taken out of our sails when the Browns moved up and got Johnny Manziel. I mean, I would have loved to have Johnny Manziel just because even if it didn't work, it would have been fun. I mean, just like the Favre thing, it would have been quite a bit of fun. To me, it just comes down to, look at where the Vikings were at. They were at 40. They had to get to 22. Browns were only at 26. They had to get to 22. Kriens said it then, and I'm sure he'll bring that up now. But that's the biggest thing. The Vikings had to give up more to get to that point, and I can't blame the Eagles or the Browns in that situation. The Vikings were just in a bad spot.
We'll never hear what it was that they offered, but if it was, a third-round pick, that was the difference between them doing it and not.
Because they had an extra third rounder.
And they had 2 third-rounders. If the difference between, I would assume a second and a third-rounder, maybe a fifth would be enough to move up 18 spots. The second and the third's plenty. They throw in another pick, which is irrelevant after picks 100. So if that was the difference, and that's disappointing. It sounds like Teddy Bridgewater is the complete opposite of Johnny Manziel in every conceivable way. Is this what you've gotten? There was that great article on the Monday Morning Quarterback website. I think it was in probably January, February when it was written, and I just read it on Friday. But I think that was a terrific article on Bridgewater. Basically, he had the control of the offense and pretty much every call, lineman calls, protection calls, play calls, everything. He was, if you want to call him the Peyton Manning of that offense, he had control of it at Louisville. So as far as everything I know about both of them, they're complete opposites.
I think that's what I like most about Bridgewater is that since the third game when he was a freshman, he came in against Kentucky, he's owned that offense. And just like you said, every audible, every shift, every change in alignment, he's had it. I'm sure he's changed his fair share of plays. And if I really would be fine if he doesn't play at all this upcoming season, who knows if that's going to happen or what is going to end up happening with him at quarterback. But I would just like to see him be able to have a year where he learns the offense, goes through 2 mini camps, 2 training camps, and see him in 2015 take a shot at that. Because, I mean, the Vikings, they're kind of in a hurry because Adrian Peterson isn't going to hold up forever. But, I mean, Bridgewater's your future now.
And the plus side for the Vikings, too, is, I mean, of all the first-round quarterbacks, I think Bridgewater's by far the safest. Now, Manziel could be a home run and end up being magical and work perfectly. But I think at minimum you can get a solid 5 or 6 years out of Bridgewater, being at least roughly around the 15th or 16th best quarterback in the NFL. I think outside of an injury, it's unlikely, that not only is he not going to be a Ryan Leaf or a Blaine Gabbert, he probably won't even be like a Byron Leftwich. He'll probably even be better than that. So that's a positive for the Vikings. I think Bortles, because of the position he's in, is by far the easiest to be a bust, taken at 3 with not much help around him, although they did draft 2 receivers. And I don't trust either the Browns or the Jaguars, but at least the Browns took Manziel in the 20s instead of 3 overall.
Let the record show for the 19th time. I like 2 quarterbacks in this draft before. I like 2 after. I like Johnny Manziel. And I like Teddy Bridgewater. I think everybody else will be terrible on the Blaine Gabbert type level, on the Akili Smith type level. None of them will be worth a damn if they get a chance to play at all.
Jimmy Garoppolo went to New England, so he's probably got the best chance of any of the other quarterbacks taken to actually do something.
Does he start a game without injury or a Week 17 rest in the next 4 years?
No.
For any team?
Probably not, but that's why, well, I guess they don't have the 5th-year option on him, but Belichick, I think, made some statements that kind of lean towards him looking at as Brady's future successor.
Absolutely not.
I'll say no. I'll say the Patriots don't have him 5 years from now, that he gets traded.
Yeah, though, I mean, just we've seen that sort of Patriots backup effect where guys gain value just from being in that offense, and it hasn't really worked a ton.
Like they mention all these backups, and oh my God, you get to learn. You get to learn, Marcus Tressel, from Tom Brady, a sixth-round pick from Michigan. You get to learn from this guy. So you have
here's the thing about that.
Nobody's any good of the quarterbacks they've ever had. They've never been any good.
Aside from training camp, you don't get any reps. You don't get any reps during the week working on the Patriots offense. Those all go to Tom Brady. And guess what? Tom Brady isn't interested in mentoring his future successor. I'm just guessing. I'm guessing
that's my favorite.
Going home to his beautiful wife and taking care of that.
That's one of my favorite things always is when they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to bring this guy in to be the bridge to the next quarterback, and he's going to save him. You really think this guy wants to give away all his tricks so a year later some 22-year-old can start in front of him and make 3 times as much money?
Do you even want to play that video, Marcus, if you have it up, or if it's easily accessible, or do you just want to say go on and not even waste your time?
I don't have it yet, but it's up to these guys.
I feel like there's a Skip Bayless thing going on here to say something just to get a reaction. Say something just to, oh, look what this guy said. That's where I'm coming from.
This is some troll stuff, yeah.
I'm okay either way. If you guys want to do it, that's fine with me.
I'm going to pull it up quick.
And while you pull it up, the blog, the Sports Lounge blog, you can find it on Facebook, on the Twitter, at TSL Sports Lounge, and on the blog itself, sportsloungeblog.tumblr.com. As Stacken is just frozen there, smiling his face off. Starting with the 98 draft, I found our friend Peter King's comments, the CNNSI.com website way back.
End of the show.
Was you that wrote that?
I wrote that. Going back
I liked it.
through seeing their comments, some are good, some are not. The 1999 one should be up tomorrow or the next day. So going through this probably through at least 06, 07, 08. Closer we get to current times, we can get ESPN guys and other analysts in there. But coming up on the 99 draft, Peter King loved Cade McNown. Loved Cade McNown. Thought he was the greatest of all time.
I remember Cade McNown.
I
remember he had some game where he was leading a game-winning drive, and it was hot. I think it was Oregon. He threw up all over the field, and then continued to lead the drive, scored the winning touchdown. They won, and then he really sucked for the Chicago Bears. Because it turns out you don't need to have a cannon of an arm to be successful in the NFL as a quarterback, but you got to be able to throw it farther than the 12-year-old girl who lives down the street.
Yes. Her arm is massive, as we know.
You know what? Maybe we shouldn't play this.
I'm fine with not playing it.
We're not going to condone that type of behavior. Anyway, local radio personality and troll from Sioux Falls basically trolls Teddy Bridgewater for 90 seconds based on no real reasoning other than sources at the draft and his own personal opinion.
Based off all those really good games that Bridgewater had at Louisville.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't have the arm strength, obviously not accurate. So, obviously he's watched lots of film, so that's good.
So is Mark.
If someone wanted to say arm strength, I don't know if I'd believe it, but I could maybe at least listen to it. Certainly accuracy, straight up BS, though. The guy's extremely accurate as a thrower.
NFL draft, that's over with. What's the timetable on? Because there's a thing there, flipping through the channels. I see the 4-Letter Network had a thing today for 2 hours after literally 25 hours the previous 3 days. Grading the draft. What team got an A? What team got a B? What team got a C? Am I going to turn my TV on Thursday and Friday and see the same sort of a crap on my TV?
Hope not. No, you'll just be hearing about the Miami Heat.
That's fine because they're at least in the playoffs.
It depends. If it's SportsCenter, it'll be the Heat. If you turn it to NFL Live, though, they'll have a new division to break down every day. until the season starts.
NFL Network, I mean, they got to get at least a couple weeks out of this. So when you're all about football, that's what you got to go to.
And unfortunately, the crap they'll put on ESPN and, oh my gosh, with Mark Schlereth, I can't stand this man anymore.
Did you bring up your Todd McShay and Mark Schlereth points?
Oh, okay. But so we'll go with Mark Schlereth. I'll go to Todd McShay here in a second. Mark Schlereth, I heard him on Mike and Mike on Friday, and he said a team that I really don't think did very good was the Minnesota Vikings. They thought they reached for Anthony Barr at 9 when they could have gotten him at 29. Had we seen anything saying that he would be available at 29? This guy seemed like he was going to be taken by, I don't know, by like Pittsburgh or someone at 15 if he was still around. So I think
we said here 1 week ago, we did a mock draft. Minnesota Vikings fan Marcus Traxler had the Vikings pick. Who did you pick at number 8 to go to the Vikings?
Anthony Barr, linebacker, University of California at Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Second, continue.
Nice.
Well, I'm just saying, I think Mark Schlereth is absolute full of crap. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about because it seems like a lot of mock drafts from what I saw and what we did last week had Barr going in the top 10, top 15. So Mark Schlereth, not real big fan of his opinions anymore. But now to this Todd McShay story. He says, talking about the 36 underclassmen that didn't get drafted, there were 98 that declared, said that for those agents / media members selling second contract, and second contract is in quotes, to these young men, what say you to the 36 that didn't get drafted?
Go back to school and get your degree.
Well, I have a big problem with this because this clown, I can't stand him. Blake Day would do circles around this guy.
Josh Johnson would do circles around this guy.
Josh Johnson, great. Loyal friend and true now of the sports block on Tuesday nights. Anyway, Pro Football Talk that they found this article on gives 3 examples: an offensive lineman, Antonio Richardson, cornerback, Lucas Purifoy. Sorry, they just slaughtered.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
And then LSU defensive tackle Anthony Johnson. They were all ranked last year before right after the NFL draft in 2013. They were all ranked in his top 32 players. And now none of them go undrafted. And he says, "Oh, that's not our fault. That's the media's fault and these agents." They're listening to you say, "Hey, this guy's rated pretty highly and going to get drafted." That's why they're leaving school. Don't list any underclassmen until they declare, you clown, and then add them to the rankings. I didn't like Todd McShay to begin with, but these comments now put him to a Mark Schlereth level for me.
You clown.
Is there much energy? Is there much energy to waste projecting guys right now? Mock draft 2015.
Well, what's Mel Kiper going to do?
Waste of time.
With that being said, I would like to now make projections. First pick, 2015 draft, player and team. Mariota seems to be the guy. Is he the guy? And what team picks him? Number 1 overall.
I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm going to say it's not Mariota because the Jaguars are going to draft first, and they're not going to take a first-round quarterback 2 years in a row. I'm going to say, I don't know, some offensive lineman out of the SEC will be picked first to the Jaguars, is my guess.
The Tennessee Titans will take Marcus Mariota number 1 overall.
Tennessee Titans will have the pick. I'm not interested in saying who it's going to be because who has any idea?
Jacksonville will have the pick. A team will trade up and pick Mariota. Give me 10 seconds to think about the team. But why do people like Marcus Mariota? Given the offense that he runs will be nothing similar to the offense he will run in the NFL.
I think part of it is, I mean, it's an explosive offense that puts up a lot of points at Oregon, and I'm trying to think. I don't think they've had any successful quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 10 or 15 years. But I think the thing is that he's by far the best one they've got, and he appears to be a good passer, but you make a good point. You know, the Eagles are really the only team that kind of sort of does what Oregon does.
Isn't Dennis Dixon still backing up someone somewhere? So
Well, he might be in the NFL. He's not starting,
in the
though.
league.
Oakland Raiders trade up. Marcus Mariota.
Oh, they have Derek Carr, Travis. Come on.
Yeah, that's going to work out. He's so good I forgot he got picked. Baseball, the Twins, I don't know how the Twins won the game today against Detroit. Still 2 games under 500. Still right around that 500 mark. They know how to just be average. There's a problem in the outfield. They're putting middle infielders in left field now because everybody's hurt. Is this a problem for you? It may have cost them a game in extra innings versus Cleveland a few days ago. Eduardo Nunez, all of 6 games experience, is out there today, and Eduardo Escobar out there the other day costing the game. Should they not have another outfielder somewhere that can play, except these shortstops?
They're out of outfielders. There's no outfielders available, and you got to have 15 pitchers on the roster, 25-man roster. So this is what happens.
They're going to win the AL Central anyway, so who cares if they lose 1 game in extra innings or something?
They're 2 games out of the wild card stack. Come on.
It's very early.
Thank you.
It's
Magic number's 134.
If you had to convert the MLB season to a time during the day to signify how early it is in the season, what time of day is it?
We're starting at midnight, full 24 hours.
Yeah, if we say it starts at midnight, I'll say it's about 4:30 in the morning then.
I was going to say
then.
5.
There's a handful of people that are up. Most of them are people that haven't fallen asleep the night before or they're over the age of 70.
I start my day at 7 a.m., so we'll say that it's 8:30.
We're about a quarter of the way done, almost 40 games in. Next week they'll be over 40 games in, so a quarter of the way done. As the pitching turned the corner a little bit, Gibson started off great, got shelled yesterday. Nolasco started off terrible. He had a complete game last week, gave up 3 runs. He seems to be good for 3 runs no matter how long he goes. When he's on, that's his best. Pelfrey's done. Deduno has done good. Has the pitching gotten any better for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's serviceable. What Deduno did today, Sunday, against the Tigers, 6 innings, 1 run per inning, if I can ever spit it out. So 3 runs in those innings that he gave him up. And, okay, I realize none of that made sense. He was in there for 6 innings. He gave up 3 runs, 1 run in each of those 3 innings. There we go. And like you mentioned, the new guys, Hughes, Nolasco, they've been good. Hughes and Nolasco each with a good game in the last week or so. I mean, I don't know if the pitching's turned the corner. My concern still remains the bullpen because it still feels like they're just throwing nobodies out there to get to Perkins. But I think, is it Casey Fiend who's been having a pretty good stretch here? And so, I mean, if you've got a few guys you can lean on, that certainly helps. The pitching is to me, is what's going to really mean the most for the Twins.
The pitching's gotten better the last couple of weeks. Time for these AAA guys to get up, the Mays, the Trevor Mays, the Alex Myers. Time for these guys to get going.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's no real guarantee they're going to do any better.
They can't do any worse.
Nah, they can't do any worse. I mean, I'd like to see them up sooner rather than later, but I know how these things usually work. This is
a contract thing.
It'll be the middle of June before we see any of them.
At least the Twins have been somewhat respectful and fun to watch through the first 2 months of the season.
I don't know about fun, but respectable, yes.
That offense has been fun. That's taking a dive. That's pretty much done now, that offense. But that was fun for that month.
Yeah.
Colabello was hitting the cover off the ball, and now his average has dropped 100 points. That was nice. Ahmed's not here. Schottenkirk's not here. My boy Aaron Hicks. When do we get going on this guy and say, all right, that's about enough? How long does he have to hit 160 before we can do something with him?
He gets until Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
it's a shame Drew's not here because he wrote today for his paper on Aaron Hicks. He called him.
What the hell did he have to say?
I don't have it verbatim, and I was gonna send it to him because he started off as you know, it's time to talk about Aaron Hicks, the problem with Aaron Hicks, and he did use Buddy, I think.
I was ready to talk a year ago. He said, "Oh wait, the guy never did anything of note in the minor leagues, so why the hell would he do anything in the major leagues?"
I don't know. I mean, he's not.
Show me something.
It's just not happening at the plate, and it's really not happening in the outfield either. But he is an outfielder. It would be nice to see him hit at least some, so you could keep somebody who knows how to play the outfield in the outfield. But I mean, I understand that's. I don't know. It seems like you would have some minor league outfielders who you bring up and at least have Hicks work on the game at AAA where he's not burning at bats of guys that could maybe turn things around.
Outside of Stacken's cousin Pedro Florimo, has there been a worse hitter you can remember over the last 15 years than Aaron Hicks? 400 plate appearances, hitting 170. Nobody, I mean, 220, 230's punto territory.
I don't know if he had as many at-bats, but Brian Anderson, an outfielder for the White Sox, had a couple years where he was there to be a solid fielding outfielder, and he was a pretty bad hitter. I don't think he got quite that low. I think he hovered in the high 190s.
Out of respect for my cousin, I will decline to say anything.
Well done. Well done.
I was trying to think. I mean, I know there's been guys sub Mendoza line for the Twins.
I mean, Buter is his own category. Buter is you know, he's not even considered. How he's still in the league with the Dodgers is.
If he could play just against the Twins, he'd have 45 home runs, though.
I mean, yeah, he just jacking stuff off the left field.
I would say that I don't think there's been anybody who's played as regularly as Hicks and has had a sustained crappiness at the plate like our guy Aaron Hicks.
Plenty of other nuggets to go through here. Darvish with his almost no-hitter, second time he's gotten within 1 out of a no-hitter. And the David Ortiz at-bat ground ball, I guess, through the shift. With the 7th inning controversial pop-up to right field. Did anybody see this? Did anybody see Harold Reynolds and Mitch Williams got into a hell of an argument about it? It was called an error. A play that's usually not called an error, even though I think it is an error. Any thoughts on a pop-up in the 7th inning? I think it was a perfect game at that point.
I don't know how that's not an error, but obviously baseball tradition calls those hits. One of the unwritten rules, of course, and so this seems like something that should be an error going forward. I mean, or who was it? Ortiz that hit that ball?
Yeah, he hit the ball to stop the no-hitter, and he hit this ball to stop the perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sit with me. So there is that.
Even though you are sitting, it doesn't sit with you. Is it sitting in another room?
Yeah,
is it kneeling?
You know, it's sitting over there, sitting on the other end of the room.
There you go.
Is it worse than that Detroit Tigers pitcher that got screwed out of the perfect game?
That's the worst.
No.
That's the worst.
That's got to be the worst ever in history. I don't think anything can surpass that.
Where's he at now? That's what I want to know.
Or Jim Joyce.
I don't know if he was in the majors the rest of the season after that. I know he was for a few more starts, but
he was.
He finished out the year. Okay.
Are we talking about the umpire or the pitcher?
Oh, I was talking about the pitcher.
Oh.
I don't know about the pitcher.
I don't even remember, what was his name? Galarraga or something like that?
Andres Galarraga.
No,
not Andres Galarraga.
That's his cousin.
Yeah.
I follow baseball. I know that was a guy for the Braves, though.
I mean, if it's a close play like that, maybe you just say, okay, the guy's out. There's probably a lot less scrutiny with him being out. If he was actually safe, then vice versa.
Yeah, but then he'd have a no-hitter he didn't deserve, you know, if it was the other way around.
Was that better than, I think, wasn't it a perfect game, or what was it?
Yeah, perfect game.
Yeah, that's a shame.
That's a shame.
He's Tigers 07, Detroit from 08 to 10, Arizona in 2011, Houston 2012, Didn't play in 2013. We assume it's Tommy John since everybody's got it. He's currently pitching. Wikipedia, I don't know what this means. Maybe you can translate it for me. It says Brother Elephants, 2014. What the hell is a Brother Elephants?
Click on the team name.
A Brother Elephant is a Taiwanese Chinese professional baseball league. So Charlie Hildebrand, he's over in Taiwan.
Nice. There's all sorts of stuff that's made in Taiwan. Apparently, they make second careers as pitchers.
Your old stomping grounds. Any advice?
My first advice would be to stay away from the sweatshops. They're really sweaty. It stinks in there. You don't want to be around it.
They set fire.
Man.
They set fire pretty easily too.
Probably pick up some Nike gear though, pretty easy.
Is that Minnesota Wild thing you have on? Is that what does the NHL have for sponsorship?
They have Reebok makes it. Of course, they were for the NFL too. But
it's good to see the NHL go to the top guys in the 70s and 80s. That's good for them.
Well, they could be made by Champion or something.
What about Starter? Where's Starter?
Russell, where are you at?
Well, that's they're just manufacturing jerseys for the SWAC.
Nice.
Ouch.
Whenever we can get a SWAC dig in, I'm digging all the way. Any updates on the guys getting killed at stadiums? We're getting near a dozen here for this World Cup. We're at least up to 8 last time we checked, and it's been a week since we checked.
Yeah, it feels like the stadium should be done by now, but because we're only 32 days away from the World Cup now, but you know those stadiums aren't done yet, and those fine folks down in Brazil are putting life and limb, mostly limb probably.
No, mostly life, but there's 8 people that have died.
How many limbs? How many limbs?
I don't know. Unreports. Sources close to me say I don't know.
Sources close to me say 60 limbs have been lost in the building of World Cup stadiums. Go World Cup.
Is Vladimir overseeing the construction of these stadiums? Because I feel like he had some issues getting the arenas and events and everything set up for the Olympics.
They're just moving the Olympic stuff to Brazil. That's all they're doing.
Okay.
And my sources tell me that there's never been any corruption in South American countries, so I'm sure all the buildings are up to code and there won't be any problems.
Your sources are always spot on.
Yeah.
Do we have the same sources, or are they all different? Do any of our sources overlap?
It's probably Todd McShay.
Mine's my Magic 8 Ball.
Well, we have the same sources out. Georgia State football, they want to use Turner Field to play their games, which I think is a hell of an idea because Turner Field's going to get tore down if that's not going to happen, and it's going to be in use for 20 years. Is this not a simple solution to having a stadium that's less than 20 years old not be demolished and wasted?
Yeah, I mean, you could just knock off the entire upper deck because Georgia State's not going to get more than lower bowl in, so yeah, why not do it?
Tennessee State plays at the Titan Stadium.
How many people go to their games? Like 5?
Homecoming is their big one. Obviously, nobody in the upper bowl, all in the lower bowl. They can get 20,000. They can get 20 to 25,000.
Oh.
So Turner Field, not the size of Titan Stadium, probably at least 20,000 less. So what Georgia State, they get Atlanta at the dome there, Georgia Dome. So they're not afraid of the big venues.
It makes too much sense for them to not play, so that's how we know that it won't end up working out.
The Georgia Dome thing, they filled up the Georgia Dome halfway once, their first game ever there. Since then, not even 10,000.
It's kind of like Tulane when they played at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Now they're getting their...
You don't need to call it the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Just call it the Superdome.
Okay.
Don't give Mercedes-Benz any more prop than they need.
Well, you never know. I might be paying me to say that now. But no, when Tulane played at the Superdome, they could barely fill. Like they probably had maybe 10, 15,000 fans. It was awful looking. Now they get a new stadium, which I'm sure will probably have 10,000 people.
It doesn't matter though; they were never on TV.
Well, they were from time to time.
Similar to football games in the Brookings College area in November.
Hey-o.
Jim Tressel, Youngstown State president, NDSU recruiting effects. Oh.
Well, he coached a couple BCS championship games, and obviously he knows football. That's going to be, he lends a lot of credibility to the Valley, and that's going to be pretty big for NDSU recruiting, obviously.
I think the only way I'm okay with this is if he's president/head coach and holds both titles at the same time.
I was going to say if he's
that'd be fun.
that works, but the fact that he's president doesn't light a candle to this. Move on.
You know he's going to fire Eric Wolford for sure now.
Is there any other
And
line
hire
of
Maurice
business?
Claret as the new head coach.
Boom.
Strength
And
and conditioning. Strength and conditioning trainer, Maurice Claret.
Yeah.
Is there any other line of business where you could go into a job like this without having any really prior experience whatsoever? Sports is its own little thing.
Journalism.
Journalism. So if you're like Stu Whitney, you go back to Michigan State and be their AD, I guess. Or Amon can go back to Freeman and be their 8th grade math teacher or something like that.
Yeah,
Don't forget, you can do it in politics too. Arnold was the governor of California, and both Clay Aiken and Ashley Judd are supposedly running for office in whatever states they live in.
And Clay Aiken, I think that race in North Carolina is still too close to call, but he could go to Congress.
If you're famous, that's the be-all, end-all.
Well, clearly we haven't gotten there to that point yet.
Well, you're in the city council, so you got somewhere stacking. So
That's exactly right. I have my sights set on higher offices, though. John Thune, watch out.
you got the PUC board. That's your PUC president, Public Utilities Commission president. That's you.
Governor Rounds, or former Governor Rounds, he's running for Congress, I think, or U.S. Senate. I'm going to.
Good. There's a report that says there's a half. What's the paper that has a $500,000 budget? College newspaper.
Southern Illinois at Carbondale.
Is that necessary?
Not necessary. 5 people on their university, on their newspaper's payroll, permanent staff,
Is
and they
this
have
a
a
daily or what?
What's that?
Is this a daily?
Yeah, it's 5 days a week, and they have a $500,000 payroll. I don't know how the hell that happens. Even if you count in scholarships, which this brings me to one of my favorite parts. Somebody testified on Capitol Hill this week that the editor of the Stanford Daily got $41,000 a year salary, and it's closer to like $5,000. It was part of this whole testifying about whether athletes should be paid or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I just saw that and I laughed. I didn't make anywhere close to $5,000. Probably cumulative my whole time at the Collegian.
Do we know what the Collegian's total payroll was?
Well, to be fair, at SDSU, Susan Smith, the advisor, and the program assistant, they're paid by the university, so it doesn't. The student newspaper doesn't have to raise revenue, but I think a total of scholarships for one semester was probably like $8,000, so $16,000 for 2 semesters to pay all the student staff.
That's a pretty big difference. I thought it'd be a big difference. It is a bigger difference than I even thought it would be.
You know, you would think you would maybe hear a $500,000 student news, LSU, Texas, USC, something like that. But Southern Illinois, no. That isn't something that doesn't sniff test.
Southern Illinois has a lot of students, and their newspaper is pretty well read. But obviously they're having some issues. The other kicker, student newspaper-wise, and I think we might have touched on this in the fall, but University at Buffalo, their student newspaper got to fly to road football games on the team plane and never had to pay for it. And so then they raised a big fuss when the AD's like, hey, you guys got to start paying for this. And they're like, why? Like, well, because these flights aren't free. You know, yeah. I don't know where they thought that they could just get on for free and it would be no big deal. I would never even imagine. I wouldn't even consider getting on, the SDSU plane and riding for free.
If you flew Southwest, it'd practically be free, or Allegiant Air.
You should be a NASCAR driver.
Why is that?
Stacking should be.
Because I just dropped sponsors left and right.
Well, that going in the corner four at Talladega, you went on the bottom, you really went past Bobby Labonte there. How'd you do it? Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Coke and Gatorade and
Wonder Bread.
and Smucker's Jelly and all these guys.
I should just be a walking human build. There was a guy who he gets paid like $100,000 or whatever to wear these shirts from these different companies one day a week, just walk around in public. But that'd be a pretty sweet gig. I could do that and just say, drop markings left and right here when they apply. I mean, seems like a job fit for me.
I'm assuming there's some other reason he's getting paid that much.
I'm guessing it has something to do with clout. He's got it, and we don't.
This was something on like the CBS News a couple years ago that I saw, where the guy like added. First it was like $1, and then it was $2, and then it was like $50, and it just kept going up and up and up. And he wears a different T-shirt every day, and for some reason, it gets up thousands of dollars. So I don't know how that works.
It's bullshit.
That's
I would assume he's got as many friends on Facebook as smoking hot girls on campus do, though, and that he's got some kind of for some reason people listen to him though, and that has. I'm assuming this isn't just some random Joe Schmo guy that doesn't have any.
I don't think he got any real connections. He just started doing it.
I don't mean connections. I mean that people his own age like listen to him and are like, oh, this is the cool guy we're gonna follow. Which maybe that describes Stacken. I don't know. I haven't seen Stacken in person in a while.
That's what these brands are all about. They're all about trying to find people our age who are trendsetters and people that other people will listen to. Nathan Stacken has a blog. I'm sure people listen to him, so maybe this will work out.
Many people have tried to duplicate us. That never happened.
Nobody can do it like us, yeah.
Pepper says, we are one of one.
Who says this?
Dr. Pepper.
There
you go. Just
really dropping those sponsors.
Dr. Pepper, my gynecologist a few years ago. The International Olympic Committee has gotten the checkbook out and written actually they get money now, so NBC's actually gotten the checkbook out. They get the rights for the Olympics from 2021 to 2032, $7.6 billion. Is this a good deal for the Peacock?
This is a big deal because they don't, I don't know how I say this, they overpay for the Winter Olympics, and they probably don't pay enough for the Summer Olympics, but you have to buy all of them. And for the IOC, this basically subsidizes what they get from any other country. I mean, yeah, they'll charge whoever else wants to bid on these Olympics, but the NBC one is what they're banking on, making all their money on. So when you've got them in a precarious situation where NBC really can't afford to give up the Olympics either, because everybody's counting on them to broadcast that, you really are kind of boxed in.
I love it, absolutely love it. They needed to stay on NBC. To hell with Fox. I don't want the Olympics going on there, ESPN, or anything like that. NBC, where they have really flourished with the multiple channels and the NBC Sports app, everything like that. There, especially with NBC now canceling Community and Parks and Recreation are in their last year, they can't seem to make any right moves with their television shows. So keeping the Olympics on for 2032 is the right move.
Parks and Rec wasn't going to be on in 2021.
What's that?
Parks and Rec was going to be done by 2021. Parks and Rec was going to be done by 2016 for all, I love that show too, but I don't think that really has much to do with the Olympics.
Well, they can't seem to figure out a good show that can stick on the air for a while, so...
The Blacklist.
This is that's true.
The African American List.
That's gonna be your show after the Super Bowl, they announced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems like Stacken also has NBC sponsoring him because he's dropping all sorts of NBC stuff. And maybe I'm wrong. It seems to me like the Super Bowl and the Olympics, the summer more so than the winter, but the winter too, that those are generally the only sports that people who don't care about sports at all will at times watch it too.
March Madness.
It's a big. Oh yeah, okay, March Madness too. But there aren't a whole lot of ones that if you're not a sports guy or a sports gal, I guess too, that if you don't care about sports, that you're gonna watch anyways. And the Olympics are one of the few.
It's interesting that people that don't care about sports watch that, but I do care about sports and I don't. Because none of the sports that are in the Olympics matter. The skeet shooting, you go to Gigglebees and do the skeet ball. You play pinball or whatever the hell they play. You get on a little motorcycle and you.
Ping pong. What?
Those aren't even sports that anybody really cares about on a broad. Nobody cares about the national skee ball championships.
You got the basketball with the net where you got the three balls coming out
shot. That's not going to be an Olympic sport. Sorry.
No, it already is. It already is.
No, it's not.
I'd watch Olympic whack-a-mole though.
That'd be sweet. Who wouldn't?
Those good.
Yeah. KELO, a friend of the program, KELO Land Television. Sports department's terrible, but their news department had something on today. They'll have something on tonight. Investigating the college coaches' pay, specifically the big three sports in South Dakota, specifically the school in Brookings and the school in Vermilion. I don't know how this comes about now. I don't know what the storyline is, but I find this interesting. It's not the sports department; it's the news department doing this, and I don't really know what the news here would be.
They make a lot of money. Enough said.
My guess is that someone complaining that why isn't this money going back into the school when they don't understand that the athletic department is a separate entity than the school. But that's just me speculating. I could be wrong. Maybe it's about something else.
Those people.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I think it's safe to assume that nobody's making $300,000 at SDS or in South Dakota as a whole.
Not even $200,000 for coaches, and it's only the big three.
Here's what it comes down to. The SDSU, or South Dakota's public university system, amazingly, is not broken. There's plenty of states where their public university system is broken. I can think of what we were just mentioning, Illinois. There's all of their coaches. Dale Lennon doesn't make $1 million, but all the basketball coaches in that state make $1 million. I mean, in South Dakota, no coach makes that. No coach makes $300,000, like Charlie mentioned. I would imagine that might be the story, that that South Dakota's coaches are paid relatively less compared to the rest of the country.
They did mention the first coach they mentioned was Urban Meyer making $4 million at Ohio State, which I thought it's good to give the comparison of who's the highest paid. I think they probably would want Nick Saban, but. To give people an idea, because people don't know how much these guys are making. But Meyer doesn't really factor in here at all.
Yeah, I just can't really see what the big criticism is here, because these coaches, John Stiglmeyer, Aaron Johnson, Scott Nagy, are pretty good ambassadors for the university. I would say that all of them are worth the money they're paid. Probably should be getting paid more, to be quite honest. Especially because we know sports. If you don't know sports, you're probably like, well, why are you being paid that? But if you look back, I know Deadspin had it, and it's a map that's commonly recycled, but it's who's the highest paid public employee in each state. In most states, it's the basketball or football coach at a major public university. In South Dakota,
was it Vermont that it was the hockey coach? I know there was some state it was hockey.
I think it was Maine, yeah.
Or Maine.
But, in North and South Dakota, it's the dean at the med school who is the highest paid public employee. And you can go look on open.sd.gov. You can look up any state employee you want, and you'll see that, I think Stig ranks, probably, or one of the coaches ranks, in the top 10, but, college presidents in the state get paid way more.
Wait, just to
Cleveland makes more than $300,000.
Clarify where the top three sports aren't softball, equestrian, or swimming.
Cross country was in there too. If you want to make it a big four, it's cross.
Oh, okay.
It's cross country and track kind of blur the lines.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were talking.
They get those shoe deals.
Okay. They do.
Under Armour?
Like, if anybody would want to ever complain about how much they're getting paid, just look at what they were getting paid 10 years ago and the athletic budget for the athletic department, and then fast forward 10 years and show what they're getting paid, and it's the exact same coaches, which is never happens and it's impossible 10 years later, and what the athletic department brings in now. That's your difference. And I don't think the rate of going up, I don't think they're making double what they made 10 years ago, but the athletic department sure as hell is making double, or their budget is at least near double what it was 10 years ago. So I mean, that's
I know something interesting about the salaries, and it's not the case anymore because I think Nagy's the highest paid now.
Nagy!
But I remember, I think it was Kriens that pointed out that like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe it was even just 3 years ago, there was a point that AJ was the highest paid coach at the school, probably the highest paid coach in the state of South Dakota. And then I just remember Kriens making this point probably back when we worked in the SID office. But could you name any other Division I college that's ever had the women's basketball coach as the highest paid coach at the school?
No.
Connecticut?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, but that's Connecticut.
Maybe, but even then, I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if whoever's their coach now.
Tennessee
I don't even remember who it is. There's no way Pat Summitt makes as much as what's his name at Tennessee, Butch Jones.
Yeah. Well, she's not there anymore, so that.
No, I
didn't
even know that.
Where can I get that hat at?
I don't know, but this is one of my favorite photos ever of Scott Nagy, just because that may be the most. One, it's a TV interview, and two, it's a pretty ridiculous hat, and the fact that they're both combined. Tom Neiman, friend of the program, really. I love the whole thing.
It looks like Neiman's disappointed for some reason with the face he's making.
He's probably like, crap, I didn't think we were wearing the same thing today.
Yeah, there's a little disappointment there, yeah.
We didn't even call each other.
Chances Tom Neiman came up to Brookings wearing that same coat.
85%.
Really? So you don't think it was given to him during that, specifically for this?
No.
Why? Do you know that the athletic department has one of those stowed away somewhere for people who come up?
They've got plenty of free equipment and jackets. We got a shirt every year for free. That was nice. But
I don't know if I ever got a long sleeve shirt,
no,
but I certainly got plenty of white tees.
We got like the one good shirt a year. That was the official shirt, and but we never got any jackets or anything like that. So
that's horse.
Obviously,
we did get those sweet Summit League tournament jackets, though.
Yeah, Sioux Falls Sports Authority. That isn't SDSU.
I'm just saying, we got jackets, and you didn't have to be there. Kriens and I had to be there, so we were technically working for the South Dakota Sports Information, or the SDSU Sports Information Office still.
I came along for the free food and the games.
Marcus Traxler was covering graduation for the Sports Lounge yesterday. He was the commencement speaker at Larson's yesterday. Any highlights that you would like to share? The 259th annual commencement address at South Dakota State.
I think it was actually 128, if we want to be too exact. So half as many just threw out of the middle of the year, which is quite close then.
To be fair, in 1750, they were talking about having an SDSU, a university in South Dakota, pre-Revolutionary War.
It's similar to all those national championships Alabama has. It's like, well, did our school start in 1820, or was it really 1889? We don't know. We don't.
Famed SDSU giver Dana Dykhouse was the featured speaker.
Did he bring down the house, or did he build a new one?
He didn't bring down the house, and no word on whether or not it is being built. He talked about how it's a responsibility for people to take care of themselves and turn themselves into something. Dana Dykhouse revealed that he at one time was fired. One of my friends was a little upset because he took a shot at, I guess you could say, Barack Obama in the speech, where he said he was talking about how he was brought up and how he wished that he could be on his parents' insurance until he was 26. That's something that's come out of...
He's near that age. What is he, 28, 29, isn't he, Dykhouse? Very young man. Very young man. Just got off his parents' insurance. Not given anything in his life, so that's good to see.
Right.
Really came from the bottom. Worked his way up to where he is now. Struggled along the way.
But I think he has, but, I mean, the...
Did it freeze for anybody else?
Hello?
So they're some of the... I would say... and my friend John Triber, some of us know him as well.
Friend of the program.
He was sitting right next to me during the ceremony, so we were cracking wise, and
nice.
And we said that.
Did you do a podcast during the thing?
We should have. We should have really. We should have been. Who are those assholes talking to you? Why are those assholes talking during the ceremony? That would have been quite good. And we were joking because the whole arena was full. We said, wouldn't it be great if this arena was actually full for its purpose, sporting events,
there you go.
sometime. So, yeah, a little SDSU cheap shot, whatever. I paid the tuition. I can take shots at the university. It was good, though. I'm glad I did it. Something that you go to school for, in my case, 3.5 years, get a degree. It feels good enough to at least go through the ceremony and have the hoorah in that whole thing.
You get to shake hands with the mustache, so there you go.
Yep, shook hands with the mustache himself.
Did he tweet it out?
No.
Oh.
He didn't take a selfie with him. Like, I got to get a picture of you and me together.
Didn't do that. There was one guy who did.
What a douche.
I set the over-under at 25. That was a little high because I figured, obviously selfies have never been hotter. They're clearly on an upward trend, and I would say I overestimated both their popularity, and I underestimated the just good-natured, not idiot, during commencement abilities of SDSU students, just not to act like assholes.
I guess I got to commend the people that graduated. If there's only one, I would have gone where you would have said. I would have guessed there would have been 25 or 30 that would have wanted to do it. So kudos to everyone except the one person that did.
And everybody, there was kind of like a, collective groan from the crowd when it happened too. There was nobody who was real happy about it.
So the guy?
Cut out there. What did this one person do?
He took a selfie with Shequin.
Oh.
This was a guy?
It was a guy, yeah.
Did anyone yell to have them take his diploma away from him and not graduate then after he did that?
No, nobody said anything like that, but you had your typical graduation air horns and people with their cowbells making noise. I didn't get booed, so I was just happy about that. I'll also say that graduation is a great way of sort of realizing, okay, of all these people the last 3.5 years, how many of them do I recognize or know?
None of them.
No, I think I knew 15%, maybe 20% of them.
Wow. I felt like how many thousands? What, 2,000 people? 3,000 people? You know, you're knowing 200 of these people?
Yeah, I would say 200. That's a safe guess. Where I at least.
Where the hell did you go?
Where I either recognize them, or I know them, or I've talked to them.
I knew 6.
6? What did you do when you were at SDSU?
And they all graduated high school with me, so it wasn't that big of a.
I will say, when you're editor of the Collegian, you meet people, and you at least come across these people.
You meet Shane Coop. Shane Coop's who you meet.
Yeah, and I've met a lot of weird people as well. Honestly, 3 of the people are on this show. Drew Almond, you meet interesting people. I'm very thankful for all of that. I would say I knew at least 200 people out of the 1,800, 2,000 people that were graduating on Saturday. And I'm not just bragging myself up. I think that's a fair estimate.
I don't know why Stacken's dropping sponsors. I feel like it should be Tressel right now with all these newly graduated people that he's got influence over.
Would they know you?
Now, see, that may be the issue.
I know who Ryan Berry is. I know Anthony Cordova's fifth kid is. I know all these people. Do they know me? They don't know me from a hill of beans. So yeah, I can know. But do they know you by name? Yeah, I saw this guy 29,000 times in my 4 years here. I have no idea who he is. We've never met. I don't know what he does, but I recognize him.
It's the one a-hole who, in every class, raises his hand and has the question at the end. They all go, "Why are you keeping us here longer?" It was that guy, right?
That one guy, yeah.
I'll say. I mean, I was sitting next to John Triber, and most of the people are in the College of Arts and Sciences. That's the college I'm in. The other guy I was sitting next to always closed up the union. His name is Peter, and right in front of me, Jordan Smith, current collegiate editor. 2 rows in front of me, John Schmidt, collegiate editor. So there's a couple. I mean, people. The person in front of me recognized me. I didn't recognize her right away, so I'll count that.
Steph Pollock, good of her to recognize you. Good.
Not Steph Pollock, no. So you're going after me because you think that he doesn't really know me.
Well, I didn't keep. No, like you don't really know them. Like do you follow them on Instagram? I mean, come on.
I don't follow them on Instagram, but I would say. I love how you're giving me a hard time. There are at least 50 people who I also graduated with, who I'm friends with on Facebook.
Here, we'll put it this way. I'll be the go-between between Tressel and Kriens. How many people, if you saw them on a random weekend in a bar in Brookings, would you or the person be like, "Hey, let's do a drink or a shot quick"?
That would be quite a few people. I would not be able to, or I would not feel confident enough to do that. But I feel like there's not many people I would do that with. I don't know if that's fair or not, but.
My biggest problem is I don't like people. So.
Yeah, I can kind of sense that. I think that, yeah, I can sense that.
Angry a lot of the time.
Good. But I like everybody.
I try to be personable until you've done me wrong. So
I like everybody here, so that's nice.
That's good.
That's good.
I can honestly say everybody that's ever been on the Sports Lounge, I have liked.
Good. Well, that's going to change next week.
Who's coming on next week?
You know who. NFL draft expert.
Who?
You know. I don't want to spoil it for the audience.
Spoil it for me.
He's got a short last name.
Blake Day will be on.
No, not Blake Day.
I like Blake Day.
Another NFL draft expert.
Oh, cute. You're real cute there, Tressel. Real cute. Go Bulls. Very good. Very good. I caught on late, but I caught on nonetheless.
Good.
As we wrap it up, the 66th edition of the Sports Lounge.
This is a bad number to sit on.
What was that?
Just kidding. It's 666, but I don't.
It's Puig's number. It's Puig's number.
That's true. But when we get to 665, and then we do 666, we have to do 667 right after that, even if it's only a 3-minute show, because I don't want to sit for a whole week on 666.
Fair enough.
I'd say to be like a hotel and just go from 665 to 667 and not have that one.
We should have skipped 13, to be honest.
Yeah.
Players Championship, they got it in. A little quarter after 8, they got the thing in.
It was dark there. It seemed like the only light was the big-ass scoreboard.
Martin Keimer, 13 under, he wins it?
Yes. Jim Furyk made a late charge, 6 under.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the German guy that won.
Yeah.
Apparently some liquor got, tied for 5th or something. Jimmy Walker.
Jimmy Walker, 7 under on the day is 65.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth, again, another disappointing final round. He's 2 over. The only guy in the top 12, or the top 15-some golfers to shoot over par. So Spieth making his best Rory McIlroy impersonation again and again. And maybe with some thoughts from noted philanthropist Donald Sterling. Quotes here to Anderson Cooper of CNN. This is what he has to say. He says, I'm a good member who made a mistake, and I'm apologizing, and I'm asking for forgiveness. He goes on to say, am I entitled to make one mistake? Am I after 35 years? I mean, I love my league. I love my partners. Am I entitled to one mistake? It's a terrible mistake, and I'll never do it again.
Considering he has already made mistakes and had to settle racial discrimination lawsuits before these comments came to light, I think his one mistake is more like 15.
Maybe I'm old school. What happened to people just apologizing and not trying to justify everything then? Why not just be like, yep, screwed up, I'm sorry, shouldn't have done it, leave it at that. But
probably got something nasty to say about other members or other people of race or sexuality or something, so.
It goes back to the whole basis of this show, actually. None of us have reputations, really. Donald Sterling has a reputation he's trying to save, but there's no saving it.
That's been a thing. Many quotes throughout the years, throughout the decades. Racist quotes.
Right. We all have a reputation for Donald Sterling, and it's not the same way he sees himself. So.
It's not new.
In today's new America, 3 things you can't be. You can't be a murderer, can't be a rapist, can't be a racist. And we'll throw you can't hate gay people in with racist. We'll just lump that all together.
Discrimination.
Can't do those 3 things.
I would like to apologize if anyone was offended. If you weren't offended, I won't apologize. But if you were offended by what I said, I apologize for that. There we go. Wild, big game tonight. Do they win?
Probably not, but I gotta get home to watch it. I'll probably miss the first period because.
We apologize. Stack and go. Run.
I gotta
go.
Run. Okay.
This is a game that I don't think if this goes to a 7th game that they're gonna win. I think tonight might be their best chance because they've been unstoppable at home. Why not take advantage of a little momentum, get the win tonight, and if they can play a little bit better than they did in Game 1, Game 2, I think they're in business tonight.
Matt coming back to lineup certainly helped.
It did. Yep.
So that'll do it for this edition of the Sports Lounge. We'll be talking more playoffs. The NBA Conference Finals should be set. Thunder Spurs. I'm excited for Thunder Spurs. Should that happen. And Tracy McGrady allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, and an inning and 2/3 through 35 pitches, 18 strikes, walked 2. He lost 5-3, given the loss. So Tracy McGrady throwing baseballs now.
And next week we're talking 2015 NFL Draft, right?
2015 Major League Baseball Draft. We'll be talking 34 round selections, catchers, and Pittsburgh leading the Rangers.
We're really going to get deep into those utility players.
We're going to get so deep you're going to need a goddamn flashlight. Pittsburgh
inside the Sports Lounge.
We're going to go in, actually. It's going to be like the Magic School Bus. We're going to go down to, like, microscopic levels.
Wow.
We're going to get into the lounge. And my Penguins up 3-2 in the series versus New York, currently down 2-1 midway through the 2nd period. We've got to have the Penguins get in there, and hopefully my predicted Western Conference Finals of Wild Kings still can happen.
I should mention that my Premier League soccer came to an end today, and my Liverpool squad 2nd place, a valiant run, but it didn't quite happen.
I don't understand what that means, but we sympathize.
Thank you.
For Nathan Stacken, Charlie Hildebrand, and Marcus Straxler, I've been Travis Kriens. Thanks for joining us for this edition inside the Sports Lounge.
Emmy Award winning.
Yes, we won an Emmy, I forgot to mention.